Radio presents The Truth Denied, Talk Radio, with your host, Roxy Lopez, where truth never lies. If you would like to speak with Roxy on the air, the call-in number is 347-327-9997. Here she is, your host, Roxy Lopez.
Good afternoon. Welcome to The Truth Denied, and I'm your host, Roxy Lopez. Thanks for listening today. Our guest is going to be Dennis Whitney, and Dennis has the most fantastic story. Today is June 17th, and about a year ago, Dennis had announced to the public that he was going to retreat. And many of his followers on his blog post and his Facebook were very disappointed, and he really did. He took a leave of absence. As you well know, Dennis is a ufologist, an experiencer, a writer, and a spiritualist. And many of you were very sad when Dennis really just disappeared. This is always tough when you have somebody like Dennis in your life who shares experiences and you don't feel so alone, whether it be you had a sighting or an anomaly in the sky or an actual ET experience. Dennis was really there for a lot of people. He is here today to set the record straight, and he's going to talk about his journey. And I think it's very important for all of us, no matter if you've had an experience or not, or those of you who are fighting the Fed right now, or chemtrail investigators, we all get the same sort of experience that Dennis had, which was, well, why don't I just let Dennis tell you about it? Good afternoon, Dennis. Welcome to the show.
Roxy, thank you for having me. This is wonderful to be on. I congratulate you on your new show. And I appreciate you giving me the kind of an open forum to kind of set the record straight on a lot of things and discuss some pretty important stuff that's going on in our world right now.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you for your openness, and thanks for appearing here.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This is awesome. So, Dennis, let's catch up some of the listeners that are not familiar with you. And let's go back a few years and talk about whatever you want to talk about, Dennis, whatever you're open to. Maybe your experience with ETs, how you came across these anomalies, these UFOs, if you will, and what was your transition? I think a lot of people want to hear about that.
Sure thing, Roxy. Thanks. For the interest of time, I'll try to condense this into multiple years into something that's informative and coherent, and it'll give you some clue as to the path that I've been on, like you said, and what brought me to where I am today. 2005, I had my first major sighting, and there was nothing that seemed happenstance about this, nothing accidental. I was living in the farm fields of Northern California in a town called Lincoln, and crystal clear skies, got to see anything. If anything was moving in the sky, I was going to see it, and I did. And it absolutely knocked my socks off when I first recognized that, oh my gosh, these things are truly moving. These are not stars. So I went in and I grabbed a high-powered flashlight, and just like the kind of stuff I've seen on the Discovery Channel or whatever else, I'm flashing my light at it. I don't know what I'm doing. I just want to let them know I'm here. I see you. I'm here. And with that, they made a tremendous and pronounced presence the following day. I had no idea what I was in for. In Northern California, in a town called Elk Grove, and for anybody that wants to look it up on YouTube, and I'll give you more information about this as well in a bit, but there's what's known as the Elk Grove UFO. This was massive, absolutely massive. This is something that I could have hit with a rock, I believe. At least it appeared that way. And it was a golden ship of light floating right over the highway. and very reminiscent of the Battle of 42 in Los Angeles, ships of light that we were firing at, on and on and on. So anyway, I believe that was a direct communication to me, and it was a response to me that said, we did get your message, we are here. And the reason I think that unfolded the way it did also was my intent. And this is something that I speak about endlessly. I get a lot of questions, how is it that we can communicate? I want to see a UFO. I've never seen a UFO. How do I bring them to me? There are one of those laws of the universe that says you first have to let them know that I'm good with this. If you want to show yourself, I'm ready, I'm good, bring it. So with something like that, I think that's what they felt as well, that this guy is ready. We're going to test him a bit. We're going to see how he can handle our presence up close and in his face. After that, it was rapid fire for years after that. There was one sighting after another. I have folders and folders, and many people have seen it on my blog before. And again, I'll give information about that later. But it was photographs. They're everywhere that I go, daytime, nighttime, any of the homes that I've lived in, no matter where geographically I was, there they were. I feel very protected from that, with them around. And I'll also tell you who I think they are. Let's move right into, say, 2006, Palm Springs. I'm taking a vacation with my family. I'm doing a little UFO watching with them, and I'm showing them how to pick them out of the skies over the San Jacinto Mountains. Later that evening, really late, the magical hour of about 2 a.m., I was in the living room where there was a glass patio door overlooking the mountains, right, where we were doing our sky watching. I'm standing there. I'm only having a glass of water, and I'm going back to bed. And I'm standing there with my water, and I see a scan, what I later determined to be a scan. Very defined beam. Came from nowhere. Absolutely nothing outside my window. No activity. Nothing in the valley below. It wasn't a car turning a corner or anything like that. There was a beam from floor to ceiling about a foot wide, amber in color, which will sound familiar to a lot of people. It's usually amber or blue, it seems. Floor to ceiling scanning from left to right, over my body, and across. It was very timed. It was very, it was almost like a lighthouse. You have that very perfectly timed rotation, or you can say a disc. So this happened once, comes across me. Several moments later, it happens again. And now I'm thinking, what is going on? So now I turn my left side to the back wall, my right side out the front window. So now I can see when this thing begins, and I can see if there's anything coming in. So the thing scans across me. I'm looking out as it's happening. There's absolutely nothing coming in my window. I'm sorry, somebody was just waving at me. Sorry about this.
Now, Dennis, may I ask, when you talk about this as scanning you, now, just to be clear, you are inside of your home. Something comes from the outside to the inside, or it's just present on the inside of your home?
If you were to ask my opinion, I would say it was coming from the outside in, coming right through that window where they knew we were watching over the mountains right in front of me. What that would suggest, if that is true, because even for anybody that knows any part of Palm Springs, Palm Canyon Drive, and I mean we're only talking a couple of blocks until you hit the mountains, and there's nothing else. You can't get anything from a great distance from there. What that would suggest is something lowered itself to really a low altitude, something between the mountains and my window, possibly not much higher than 2-3 stories off of the ground. Now, and I use the word scan because that is exactly what it looked like. I also found my electronics were all dead the next day. My iPod fully charged, ready to take a nice walk. That's dead. Very strange, anomalous things. There was a gal on the radio that was talking while I was in the car that same next day, and she said, the strangest thing, there was a bird that landed on my hood, stared me in the eye at a red light. She goes, what is that about? So I tend to think that although it was a response maybe to me, and so I was given something, maybe a boost in my DNA, a little activation, a little kickstart again, it affected the electromagnetics, had to affect that entire valley. And just an extraordinary moment in my life, and I can pinpoint it to a time of my awakening. Soon after that, I found myself literally waking up with this new knowledge of, for lack of a better term, how the universe seems to work. And I'm thinking, how is that possible? I didn't understand that the night before. I seem to understand that pretty clearly now. I'm given information. It felt like I was cramming for my college exam overnight. And I have this newfound knowledge and a passion to write about it. But I didn't have an outlet yet. I went to the ECETI Ranch the following year, 2007, for the first time. I had met James Gilliland at a conference. I met a couple of other guys there who happened to be pilots from Australia. And we talked about it. We talked about all my story, all my sightings, and they basically said, dude, you need to get this out. You need to share this with people. I have somebody for you to talk to. It was the editor of what's known as, it was an online Australian news site. It's their primary site known as www.australia.to rather than .com. I became good friends with the editor of this online magazine, and I ran a column on there for quite some time about paranormal, but ET issues in particular. And from there, I began writing for X Times magazine in Italy, just a wonderful outfit, beautiful magazine run by Lavinia Pilata. And I also wrote for a magazine known as the UFOLOGIST from Jaboomba, which don't ask me where that is, in Australia. And then maintained my blog during that period. Just as the information came in, as the sightings progressed, I kept putting it out there. To present day, now we're talking about such things as actually seeing interdimensional or extra-dimensional beings, glimpses of an outline of them, something that's not quite in our reality, not quite out, and as they walked by me, I felt this electrical energy, this static electricity that you could literally hear crackling at the time that it was happening. And I deal with a lot of missing time episodes, so a lot of people are familiar with those. I can always give you details about that, but it's I've experienced that at least half a dozen times where in a heartbeat, absolute heartbeat, I'm 200 miles down the road. It's reflected on my GPS, on my odometer, on the time. I feel hazy at the time. I know something's going on. And in one particular occasion, I absolutely believe that I met one of these beings in the 3D, much more humanoid, much more like us, actually a beautiful blonde girl, to be honest with you, blue eyes. And I think they chose that moment, and this may have been a member of my star family that is now looking out for us in these days on through 2012. And it was the one example where they said, we are here. We can't do this all the time, but we want to let you know we are here for you, Dennis. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. You need to pay attention to the signs when these things happen.
Now, Dennis, I do have a question. Okay, what a fascinating story, and I have spoken with you before. Your story even gets more fascinating than this. But do you feel that once you opened yourself up to the idea that there was something more to this life, or there was something more to this planet, meaning that we are not the only civilization, meaning humanity, planet Earth, do you feel that once you allowed yourself to open up to those aspects, if you will, that these events began more and more, as you just described, and the download of information that you described, that's very common. You're absolutely correct. The missing time, and we will talk about a couple of instances where you had an amazing experience with that. But do you feel, did you ever feel afraid?
No, I didn't. And doesn't that seem strange in retrospect? You think about something like that, and you think, "Oh my gosh, they show themselves in such a forceful and direct way. Why didn't that freak you out? Why would you know?" And here's the thing: I think this is the crux of it all. It is about intent. It is about who you are as a person. It is about what you're willing to accept. They know who you are by your vibration. Your vibration. The electrical force that surrounds and surrounds your body and runs throughout your body is a signature that tells them this guy is ready. And this is something that Billy Meyer used to speak of. And people would say, okay, you're a one-armed farmer in Switzerland. Why on earth would they choose you? basically, they knew who I am as a person. They knew I was ready. They knew whatever it was, whatever the purpose was. I was ready from the get-go. I was excited about it. I had no experience with it prior to 2005 that I can look back to my youth and say, oh, that might have been something. But, I mean, it's something in such an overt fashion. It is about the intent that you're placing out there. And they read that like a book, and they say, he really is ready. And it's an example of, I use this with a lot of people because they say, you know what, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, if you take a moment, just sit back for a moment and say, well, why don't we look at that the other way? When you believe it, you will see it. Your belief, and I know that's kind of a dirty word in these circles, it shouldn't be about belief. Well, first things first, you need to believe. When you send that vibe out, when you send that message out, when you send that electrical transmission in form of thought that can be picked up in higher dimensions and read, you are letting them know that it's okay to approach. And once you do that, that's when you're going to start seeing things. If you have this underlying fear saying, I think I want to see something, but if I see something, I think I'm going to hide. They know that too. And it's nothing. It is what it is. It's not good. It's not bad. It is what it is. And they will think to themselves, when you're ready, we'll show up. Because a lot of people think they're ready, but they're really not. And this is what everything's about right now on the planet. We need to get the planet recognizing that there are, although like any neighborhood, like any state that you live in, there's the good with the bad. There's much more good in this universe that is watching out for us than the bad. And they want to see us through. They're not here to freak us out. They're not here to come in waves and just send people screaming. This is the problem with the media, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about this because I really want this to be a positive show, and I'll explain more of that as well when I tell you. But that's where humanity needs to get to. First, recognize the reality of this. Second, realize they're not coming to eat us. Third, be prepared, and you need to understand the reality of your universe. And at that time, when a majority of humanity says, I'm ready. No, I'm ready. Let's do this. I've been waiting long enough. Let's do this. That is when we're going to get the mass sightings, and that is when, those that have denied it to this point and continue to deny it, they will have to deal it in the way they're going to have to deal with it. You cannot wait for every last person, and this is what the ascension is all about, and raising the consciousness of at least the majority of this planet to be prepared to interact with beings that you don't fully understand. The implication being they will, when they first visit us, they're here with us now, but they will show themselves in a much humanoid form, much more like us. I shouldn't get ahead of myself, but that's it's designed to make us as comfortable as possible to make this transition, but that day is coming. Forget about the government telling you about it. I used to be a big proponent of exopolitics, and I love what they do. I think it's very altruistic, and there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, except for the fact that you are relying on persuading certain members of Congress and the presidency and world governments to come clean with all of this information. They haven't told us the truth about the smallest issue going on, anything. They don't tell us the truth about anything. Why do you think they're going to disclose all of this information, and then they'd have to touch on, this is what we suppressed, this is who we threatened, on and on and on. It's not coming.
Dennis, I think, and thanks for saying that. I agree with you, and I think a lot of people would agree with that disclosure, the word disclosure, I'm beginning to wonder if that's just a CIA coined adjective, disclosure, because truly what seems to be happening across the board, whether we're just any sort of secret, we have been kept from so much information that I really do agree with you that it's going to take the people, humanity. We are going to be our own voice.
We're all that matters.
That's right.
We are going to be our own. Not to rely on other people to give you the information that you need. You are doing this. You are doing your part, and they recognize that. When humanity's ready, this is when they are going to step in and be much more real in our lives. It's already happening, Rox. You and I both know it. They are dealing with us on a one-to-one basis wherever it applies. It has nothing to do with governments anymore. So God bless them in exopolitics for doing what they do. I no longer hang my hat on that. I think that is a worthless venture to say, okay, well, I'll deal with this when the government comes forward. You don't need to do that. When you put that vibe out and say, I'm ready, I don't know about the rest of them around me, I'm ready, let's do this. That's when it's going to happen. And that's how it happened in my life. And as I've taught this to other people about putting out that intent, putting the flashlight in the sky, you open up one of the international, that's entirely the wrong word, but you open up one of these laws of the universe that say that you must first make contact. You must send that intent out, and then they will respond. And when you do that, be patient, keep sending it out there, but let them know and be true to your heart. You send that out through your heart, that's what they're going to read. There can't be any ambivalence about it. If you're not ready, you're not ready. The fact that you are recognizing this subject is real is probably one of the most important things to them. These are the people that are ready for the tremendous changes coming to this planet before this year's out and that are already underway.
Dennis, how did these culminations of experiences change your life? What happened? You mentioned a word, ascension. Some call it activation of the DNA. How did from where you were to where you are right now, and then we will discuss your leave of absence for the past year, but from where, when you started to do your blog and you started to reach out to people, what were some of the, in other words, did your life, your daily life, how you used to live and what you did for work and where you know, all of this, did any of this change? And if so, what were the changes that others can really identify with?
Okay, that's a good question, Roxy. That's and I think about that actually quite often, because I'll look back and I'll pinpoint a perfect time in you know, cinematic history. You can look back to the days of Men in Black, the movie. At the time, I was dating a woman, and we went to see the movie, and she was so into it. And this will tell you where my mind is at as compared to today. And it wasn't that long ago. I don't remember what year that came out. But I remember thinking, to be honest with you, I fell asleep during the movie. And I thought, and I watched it again, and I said, that's kind of interesting. I don't even know, I didn't dismiss the existence of life outside of this planet, but I didn't give it a whole lot of thought. I didn't spend the time thinking, well, now wait a minute. Now where are they and what's happening? Not a moment's time was given to that. I had a completely agnostic view of alien life prior to my own events, my awakening, my supposed scan. All of these things suddenly jarred me with so much information, and this is what the downloads are all about. That when you're ready, you can use the term, when the student is ready, the master will appear, and that seems to be the case. When you grasp a particular concept of the whole ET picture, when you understand a part of it, it seems that you will be given another part. This is, and I have friends that are contactees that have much more conscious recollection on board, and they will also describe it very much like school. It's like you're going to school overnight, and this is why you hear from contactees that they're so tired in the morning. Whatever it is that they're doing, whether it be schooling, whether it be some other mission, you're going to feel it the next day, and you may or may not remember what was going on board. In terms of the ascension, this is my personal view. Everybody's got what they feel 2012 is about, what an ascension is about. For me, the whole idea is the 3D Earth is in the process of birthing into a 5D Earth, higher dimensional realm, free of all the lower vibrational attitudes and activities and all the things that are suppressing our planet right now. No more war, no more hatred, no rape, no, you name it. If it is not beneficial to humanity, this will not exist in the new world. And this seems to be what's happening on many of the alien planets, is that it's a service to others attitude, not service to self. It's about doing ththings just to do things to assist your fellow human being. And this is all about the laws of magnetism, laws of attraction. A lot of people have heard the term. You do for others. You give to others. You don't do because you expect, okay, the universe is going to return this to me tenfold. You do because you do. And when you need something, it will be there for you. And you can equate this to currency, the non-existence of currency in the future, because when your needs become real, they will be addressed. You'll be given. You're seeing that now. You're seeing instant manifestation. You're seeing things that exist in a higher dimensional world. Dimension, vibration, light, all of them are virtually interchangeable. It is frequency. We are all made of light. You raise the frequency of ourselves high enough, and we'll disappear right before your eyes. And this is what the afterlife seems to be about. It goes beyond our visible light spectrum. You can use as evidence for this such things as infrared. A lot of people have used night vision goggles, and they've seen into the infrared. Well, there you have a world that is vibrating at a rate that you cannot see with the naked eye, yet there it is. I mean, how much more evidence do you need that things are happening around you that you can't see? So now we're at a point where the more knowledge you get, the more you speak about these things, the more you understand these things, and the more downloads that you receive because of it, it actually raises your consciousness, which is the knowing beyond the physical brain. It is something that raises the vibration of your person. And as you raise in vibration, we're about, for the first time in human history, this is what makes it so special, and this is my opinion, but it's shared by others, is the fact that when this 2012 alignment comes to be, we will actually take our physical bodies with us, not just our light bodies as in death. We will take the whole kit and caboodle with us, everything that we've come to learn, and just take it with us. And this is what the ascension is about. So when you hear things and people reference the Bible and people disappearing before the eyes of others and all you see is their footprints, this could be what they're referring to. And I'm certainly not a religious person, but I really like, and Roxy, you and I have discussed this stuff offline, but I like to see the references. I like to compare notes. I like to see what jives with what I believe and what I think is nonsense. I think many of us are starting to get a filter for that. It comes in. You can share any information that you want with me. There's an instant BS meter that's there, and it's just, I think it's your higher self that filters that out and says, keep this, ditch this, keep this, no, this is good, you're going to want this for later, and this is nonsense.
Thank you, and Dennis, absolutely everything you're saying, I'm getting goosebumps because you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. Now, as far as this change that you went through. And we don't have to speak to this because the show is not about this, but how do you address those who probably came into your life when you were doing your blog and such? How do you address abductees? Because I do get a lot of emails from abductees that are not having the same experience as you're having. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. You can use the term abductees, contactees, whatever you're more comfortable with. I don't have a problem with, whatever you personally feel is the right word for you. Abductees would suggest something that is wholly against your will. Contactees, like myself, I'm ready for whatever they want to share with me, however it is they feel they need to get with me, to share this information, which, again, comes into the missing time issues. But I think you will attract what it is that you put out into the universe. She's a prime example for that. You could be talking about the Ouija board, and people, oh my gosh, the stigma that's attached to that. You mention that word, and people think, do not touch that thing. That is a stupid thing to do. You don't know what you're bringing in. Well, that can be said. That can be true if you don't know what you're dealing with. If you're toying with this thing and you're opening portals and opening to another realm, you will then attract that what you seek. If you're saying, if you're toying with this, you're challenging it, you're saying, whatever, bring it, you're going to have a fight on your hands. You're going to have issues that you are not ready to deal with. And the same could be said at the capacity of an ET interaction. I do have personal friends that say, Dennis, this one really spooked me. I really didn't care for this even recently. I had a friend of mine, and she said, Dennis, I saw 3 grays in my living room, and they were working on my mother. And because she's stressed, she's ill, she's whatever. And it didn't resonate very well with her, made her very uncomfortable. Now, when you direct that to the grays are a very android-like being. They are created half mechanical, half biological, and they are created to suit a need. And the government knows this full well as well, because we hear a lot of stories about how the grays work with our government. They're just manufactured beings, maybe instilled with human consciousness, maybe not. I don't know that for sure. But if you go into that realm truly fearful of what's going on and what's going around, and you hear the same things from near-death experiencers, the things that they witness, the things that are in your thought, you will manifest instantaneously in another realm, and it's happening very quickly now as we make this shift. But if you go into it with fear and you say, let's use an example. If I see a 10-foot spider come around that corner, I am absolutely going to freak out. And what happens? 10-foot spider comes creeping around the corner. The same could be said at a higher dimensional realm. You're going to create that which you fear. For myself, I can't speak of any negative experiences because I'm open to it. I'm not stupid. I'm not saying do with me what you will. I'm saying I would like to know more. I want to understand more, share more information with me, and give me the tools that I need to fulfill whatever it is my purpose is here on Earth. And I think they recognize that, and it also filters out the lower vibrational beings, whether you want to call them reptilians, reptoids, Dracos, whatever. You're going to deal with a higher vibration.
So you're saying that you're specifically dealing with a certain energy. Now, Dennis, I know that we're a little past the bottom of the hour, and what I really would like to know, and I think a lot of listeners really want to know, Dennis, why did you go into hiding for a year, and where have you been?
Okay. Here it is. I had thought about this when you and I, through a few email interchanges and having a few conversations, I have weighed this because, to be honest with you, even up to a month ago, I still didn't think I would get on air again and do any radio interviews, and I'll explain that in a second and why. But the more I thought about it, I thought, okay, let's just get this out on the table because what I've done is not entirely fair to those that. Because I did catch a lot of criticism. I mean, you can use your own imagination. Oh, you're a chicken. Where did you go? You need to be there for other people. You're the first to tell us to stand up to authority or to however you want to define that, and then you run the other way. And that's not entirely true. So I figured let's just lay this on the line and let's just do it. Back almost a year to the day to your show, which is also very interesting. There is a memo that came across my hands that was in regard to, of all things, the Gulf oil spill. It wasn't even UFOs. And by the way, let me get this out first because I'll probably forget it later, and then we'll get right back to this. In terms of UFOs, I have also had experiences with the supposed men in black. These are very real beings. This is a reality, and you can look this up online if you want. It's basically a case study based around that first huge sighting in Elk Grove, and the article is called UFOs: Physical, Dimensional, or Holographic, and it was published in a few magazines. But I think UFO Casebook Online has a very accurate account. It's what I wrote, and I used the example of all such facets of watching this craft and seeing the hologram and everything, but it talks about the men in black as well. So you can look it up and you can read about that yourself. Now, they were out of my life for an awful long time. I didn't have any really strong overt threats of any sort since then. Little things that kind of remind you, yes, we're still with you. You enter their database, you're not out of their database ever. And I know that full well. It's kind of like you stay on the straight and narrow. Well, I'm not a straight and narrow kind of person. I'm extremely outspoken, and I used to be anyway. I still have a great interest in the bigger picture and what's happening with the government, the Fed, the geopolitical scene. What is it that's happening that clearly is a detriment to humanity for one reason or another? But I don't want to dwell on that, and I'll tell you why. That's not what this picture is about. Much greater things are coming our way. But I got this memo from an employee on the exploded rig. In the BP, the Gulf? It was the BP, it was the Gulf. And what had happened is he sent me a memo, and he was he sent somebody a memo who sent it to me. This was not really made to be made public, or maybe it was on his behalf. And it came across my desk, and I put it out there, and it had my name attached to it. This particular thing happened to address how there were other agencies that arrived on the scene, overtook the rig. Basically, management stepped down, said they basically told them, you are no longer in charge here. Now, that wouldn't shock, but there were more details.
Who was the agency that took over?
Don't know. Whether you want to call them the CIA or something else, they were non-defined black jackets, and they were prepared for this, and they came in like they've done this before. They stepped onto the scene, and that was that. And that was fully suppressed. And we learned about that through the cameras on the seafloor, and they were filming basically a rig that was, it was seeping a little something, but nothing big. And they kept the camera off the true exploded seafloor and the cap that just blasted everywhere. So we never got to see the true picture of it. And there was evidence of that because there were numbers on each of the cameras. The camera was like camera 2. It was on a different rig. It was no big deal, but they passed it off as rig number 1, which was the one that exploded. So there was deception from the very start and onward, and I don't believe that has ever ended. In any case, I put that out there. It reached, it was on the Alex Jones show, and they discussed it, and then they said, well, however it is that they worded it, that this guy's life is in danger. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that there was an unnecessary amount of attention from black helicopters over my place to, emails. And emails just wiped out of my account, and all of them were UFO and Gulf related, just gone. And I'm not making myself to be on anybody special in that regard. I know it happens to numerous persons around me, and that, you speak about some incredibly outspoken topics, and you're incredibly brave for what you do, Roxy. I'm not trying to, I'm just stating it as it is. You are really getting some truth out there. I am speaking from my perspective. When that happened, and since that email account was shut down without my consent or knowledge, or just blocked out. Now, I had two options at that point. I could stand there and say, okay, you want to play this game? I'll start another email account. I'll do this, I'll do that, and I'll fight the man. I could have done that, and it had crossed my mind. Well, there are other things that came into my life. I do have communication with my own spirit guides, and I hope that doesn't freak anybody out, but if you're already dealing with the ET realm, spirit guides shouldn't faze you in the least. And what they were telling me basically is that chapter is closed, Dennis. You weren't meant to do this, this, and this for all eternity. We needed you to do that, to educate, and to awaken a certain number of people. You could use Facebook as an example as well. I closed my Facebook account. I closed my blog. I stopped writing for the magazines. This was upon their recommendation. And believe me, I had
they being ET.
My spirit guide.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And I said, come on. I actually tried to negotiate this and said, well, at least let me do the blog or let me do this. I loved my working relationship with the magazines and with the column in Australia. And they said, all of it. Shut it down, all of it. And I said, is this really that serious? Yes, shut it down. Now, what I gleaned from that was that this is, and it's very difficult to explain to people who really see you as just running from the scene. My understanding, my clear understanding of this is that is a phase of your life that is done. You have done well. You are done with that. We need you to do other things. And the whole idea of why we're on this planet, for which I believe we have chosen to be in this time with a particular mission, and to fulfill that mission as best we can once we realize maybe what it is that my job at that point was to redirect my energies. My energy was not best used in fighting these issues. That was to be left for other people. I'm still not running from it. I'm still interested about it. I still discuss it with others. But in a public forum such as this, what that does, if that's all you talk about, is it seems to manifest that as well. And they know that. And it keeps you trapped in that endless loop of fighting about it. And now, you'd like to think that people are being educated about that, and many of them are. But if it's not handled in the right way, you can freak a lot of people out. And what does that do? When you start to react in that way, out of fear, out of ignorance, whatever the case may be, you lower the vibration of a human being. And if they don't interpret it properly, and they can't deal with it just yet. And that comes back to consciousness, human consciousness. You're trying to raise it around the planet. And if you leave people in fear, you are one step up, two steps back. And I think that was the message to me, is you are better served right now, Dennis, dealing with people on the ground. Now is the time in which I'm active in a lot of sustainable projects and working in greater harmony with the planet. Yes, I know that sounds very 60s and whatever. But it's the fact that you are to assist those that are going to need you most on the ground. You've awakened enough people. You've done your job. If by this point people don't recognize reality for what it is, or that these things even exist in this world, you can't do much for them at this point. It's going to have to take its natural course. That's not to say other people aren't still going to awaken, but it's going to take its natural course, and they're either going to awaken to it or they're going to get blindsided with something they never saw coming. And you can place blame on anybody that you want for that, but we all take personal responsibility in that regard.
Well, this is interesting that you're mentioning that, Dennis, because you and I've had conversations with a lot of people regarding accepting what's happening on our planet little by little by little, the matrix, if you will. And for those who are not even have begun to awaken to what is really happening on this planet in a number of facets, I wonder if that were me, I would just self-combust. I wouldn't. I'm having a difficult time enough consuming all of this information, if you will, and going down rabbit holes for generally my entire life. So I can't imagine if somebody just sort of wakes up tomorrow and it just gets hit over the head. You're absolutely right. I also wanted to let you know that we are opening the caller lines. For anybody that has a question, the number to call here on the GIC is 347-327-9997. That's 347-327-9997. And we do have a caller who's been on hold. Are you willing to speak to a caller?
Oh, absolutely, Ross.
Okay. So if we could, at the switchboard, can we take that caller who is on hold for Dennis Whitney? Caller is on the air. What's your name?
Hello?
Hi, who's calling?
Hey, this is Steve Mallon.
Steve Mallon from California, and welcome to the show. You're speaking with Dennis Whitney. Do you have a question for Dennis?
Yeah, I do. Hi, Dennis. I've been shining flashlights up in the sky since I was a little kid, too. They seem to be following me around many different places of the state and where I've traveled. But my concern here is about the UFOs and aliens of many types. The Dulce facility. What can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Dulce is actually not too far from where I now live and where I was, again, guided to be. Dulce is a subject that a lot of people don't want to discuss. Whether or not we should or we shouldn't, it's almost irrelevant. What comes out of Dulce is a highly secure facility you can't get near the entrance. There is a tight perimeter around it. It is military guarded, and it is basically an entrance that takes you into a subterranean complex that a lot of people will refer to as kind of an octopus. It's got tentacles that reach around the planet. For some people, they won't accept. Yeah, and you like to think, okay, well, there's an underground bunker, or maybe there's some tunnels. No, there's not some tunnels.
You can have the Archuleta Mountains up there on the Indian reservation, which is full of the tunnels.
Right, under Taos. You also have it. Yep, you have it under Taos. You have various parts of New Mexico. There are entrances in different parts of it, and what it is, if you were to believe what's happening, is the fact that there is actually a lot of military ET interaction going on underground. How much this is benefiting humanity is anybody's guess. A lot of people in Taos, there's what's known as the Taos hum, and it is this reverberating frequency that's coming from nowhere. What's happening? Is it drilling?
Right.
There seems to be a mass. Yes, Steve.
Well, the HARP.
You asked me something? Oh, no. I don't want to cut you off.
Sorry. Yeah, that's all right. The HARP device, resonating waves, is affecting everybody, along with the next-rad towers and, who knows what else is going on. But
well, you're learning it exactly right. Who knows what else is going on under there? You can look to parts of the planet such as Montauk in Long Island, and what was made the news not too long ago, known as the Montauk Monster. This is something that washes
sure, there's tunnels supposedly in vacuum tubes that have drains or a system that travels at Mach 1 through from the White House all the way down to Area 51.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. And you know what? I wouldn't push that past anybody. We have ET technology. We have free energy devices. We have what's necessary to levitate a train and send it at Mach 1 around the planet. We have everything that they discussed that we don't have the technology for. It exists, and they've been building tunnels since the 50s. You have workers of these places that have come forth and say, you people have no idea what we've been working on and what we're capable of underground. But you see a lot of what are known as USOs, which are basically underwater UFOs.
They have a piece down here in Santa Monica, underneath the bay out here.
Well, perfect, because that is exactly where I was going to pinpoint, is the fact that these things are entering the water in the area of Santa Monica. There's up and down the coast from Northern California all the way down. And what seems to be the case is they are entering underwater caverns. You can imagine yourself, are they going to their own domain, or are these some of our ships or back-engineered ships, or are they our interactions with Greys? Are they? But supposedly they can enter Santa Monica coast, and they can cruise underwater all the way inland into New Mexico. And that seems impossible to the human mind. Like, how can you do that? And how can this not be shared with us? There's DNA manipulation. The machine that makes these tunnels, it's a 40-foot round device that has it's a massive
technology
drill.
that drills 7 to 10 miles a day, and it doesn't need any weight. So it's just like a little ant farm under here.
Yep, and with this massive drill, and it looks like the largest rocket you've ever seen, with a drill bit on the end that'll take it through any material on Earth. It rotates. It seems to rotate and actually produce such an extreme heat that it actually cauterizes the walls as it enters through the Earth. Because you have to think to yourself, okay, you're drilling all this stuff. What are you doing with all the debris, and how are you carting it out? It's not being carted out. It's being moved in, and all of the walls are just being smooth as silk, just glass smooth and melted as it's drilled. Half this stuff.
I hear there's a tunnel that goes from Dulce to Los Alamos. That's been there for thousands of years. It's coated and it has diagrams of all different kind of creatures and plants that were here way back.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Well, Dennis, and thank you for the call, Steve. Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Dennis, I think that there are going to be a lot of people that perhaps have known you from the past and are going to wonder if you're coming back, if you're surfacing back, or if you just thought this would be an appropriate show to just come back out for a bit and just say, hi, I'm okay. Are you going to be emailing? Are you going to be blogging again? If you are, where can people reach you? Can we just get a little bit of information about that? We are running out of time. I can't believe how fast this went, but if you could explain just a little bit of that and about.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Roxy. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm taking things a day as they come, and I would hope that a lot of people are living their lives the same way. No grand plans. I'm dealing with today, and tomorrow I'll deal with tomorrow. There's too many things that are happening on the planet right now to be thinking ahead, because a lot of it will be unrecognizable a month from now anyway, in what it is that we should be doing. I will tell you why I'm on today. Roxy, I trust you. I know your work. I know what you do. I know who you are as a person, at least as best of my abilities in determining that. I trust you. What I wanted to do is, if I'm going to come out, I'm going to do it with you. And I wanted to share this with people because I still hear the questions, and I'm not surprised by it, by what happened, or you really didn't explain things, or you left, and why did you leave, and you need to be here. And this was a time to set the record straight. What I do tomorrow, I don't know. I'm not making this grand re-entrance into the ufological field. If something's there and somebody wants to discuss it, I'm not hiding from that. What I am dedicating my energies and my efforts toward is that there are much brighter days ahead. I think that's part of my mission right now is people need to understand that, okay, yes, all this other stuff, it's all very real. We have darker forces that have infiltrated things like the Fed, and you want to talk about the Illuminati and things like that. That's almost a non-issue now. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It's not where your mind should be. Let that stuff play out. The end game is already played out where there is no sense of time in a higher dimension, and I think that's one of the reasons why the beings are back here now. All the things that have been prophesied, they're going to come to pass. But as you know, I've had the great opportunity of speaking to a number of indigenous elders from different tribes, and they speak of the great purification. This is what we're in the midst of. And they had also told me that I had fallen out of balance. When that had happened, I wanted to point that out. They made that very clear, that you have fallen out of balance. That made such great sense to me. I spent too much time talking about the darker side. I was helping to actually manifest that stuff. And right now it's about, okay, so the stuff is real, it's happening. Now you need to educate your friends and your family that, you know, they should be seeing it, that these things are real as well, but that there are much brighter days ahead. There are so many people losing hope now that this is somehow going to go on for 20, 30 years. Oh, my gosh, my kids are going to have to deal with this debt. Forget about all that. That's not, in my opinion, that's not the least bit true. We have about 2 years left, if that, to watch this stuff settle out, to see our new world come forth. But you first have to grasp that concept. In terms of blogging, I have a blog. Here's the thing. I don't blog anymore. I don't intend to blog anymore. I loved it while I was doing it. I don't plan to go back to writing for magazines. I think my mission now is to help those that are in my immediate surroundings and to be there, to answer questions for them. Things are moving so rapidly now that physically I need to be there for people, and I'm watching that happen now. I think that was the reason why I had to shut things before. Don't worry about the online thing. Make sure that you're there for those that truly are going to come to you asking questions as things begin to unfold. But you can visit my blog. It's www, of course, Dennis Whitney UFO, all one word, .blogspot.com. DennisWhitneyUFO.blogspot.com. What you'll find on there now are some important and relevant videos to me over the years. You'll find historic sound clips. You'll hear the original audio radio cast, CBS audio cast from Roswell. When it was first reported, if that's still up there, hasn't been pulled down. So you can visit that. I think you'll find some very beneficial information and some great UFO compilations on there done by a gal by the name of Erica Ahonen, which a lot of people know of, to see some real evidence that you can share with others. You can email me. I didn't know if I was going to do that originally, but that too would be unfair. because I know people still have questions, and I'm still here for them. You can email me at I've got a couple of email addresses going right now, but you can go Dennis has two N's, Dennis 2012 at hushmail.com, hushmail.com, and I have dedicated that particular site and that address strictly to radio show questions and things like that. So it keeps things separated, and I can quickly see what I need to address without being mixed in with so many other things.
Well, Dennis,
yes,
we've got to wrap up the show, and so I want to thank you for coming back out in the open for just a little peek of you. I know that there are a lot of people who probably will email you, and can we have that email address one more time, and then we're going to have to wrap this up, hon.
Okay, sure. Dennis 2012 at hushmail.com, and just send me an email. I will be as quick as I can about responding to it. Sometimes I do fail in that, and I can be a little slow about it. Email is no longer really the priority to me as it was, just as with
all
many
right. Well,
issues.
Dennis,
thank you, Roxy.
You stay in touch. I'm glad to hear your voice. I'm glad to hear that you're alive and well and that you haven't decided to ascend just quite yet. And we will be speaking to you again sometime. Thanks so much for joining the show. And I also want to remind everybody that to please catch the Just Bernard show this Monday. That's the Just Bernard show this Monday with author, metaphysician, and executive director of the GIC. He will be doing a very special 2-hour presentation on light workers and processing the light. So please don't miss that. And future shows for us on the 24th, Friday, we're going to have Mark McCandlish, who's an aviation expert, to discuss airplanes that you're seeing in the sky, what they are, what they're spraying, etc. And the following week, we have Mike Murphy coming out to Arizona, and we're going to do a show live from Arizona. Dennis, you just have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Roxy.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
And listen, we love you for all that you do. And please don't be a stranger. I'm just honored that you broke the ice here and came out for our very first show, The Truth Denied. And I'm your host, Roxy Lopez. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming.
Of light floating right over the highway, and very reminiscent of the Battle of 42 in Los Angeles. Ships of light that we were firing at, on and on and on. So anyway, I believe that was a direct communication to me, and it was a response to me that said, we did get your message, we are here. And the reason I think that unfolded the way it did also was my intent. And this is something that I speak about endlessly. I get a lot of questions, how is it that we can communicate? I want to see a UFO. I've never seen a UFO. How do I bring them to me? There are one of those laws of the universe that says you first have to let them know that I'm good with this. If you want to show yourself, I'm ready, I'm good, bring it. So with something like that, I think that's what they felt as well, that this guy is ready. We're going to test him a bit. We're going to see how he can handle our presence up close and in his face. After that, it was rapid fire for years after that. There was one sighting after another. I have folders and folders, and many people have seen it on my blog before. And again, I'll give information about that later. But it was photographs. They're everywhere that I go, daytime, nighttime, any of the homes that I've lived in, no matter where geographically I was, there they were. I feel very protected from that, with them around. And I'll also tell you who I think they are. let's move right into, say, 2006, Palm Springs. I'm taking a vacation with my family. I'm doing a little UFO watching with them, and I'm showing them how to pick them out of the skies over the San Jacinto Mountains. Later that evening, really late, the magical hour of about 2 a.m., I was in...
GIC Radio presents The Truth Denied, Talk Radio, with your host, Roxy Lopez, where truth never lies. If you would like to speak with Roxy on the air, the call-in number is 347-327-9997. Here she is, your host, Roxy Lopez.
Good afternoon. Welcome to The Truth Denied, and I'm your host, Roxy Lopez. Thanks for listening today. Our guest is going to be Dennis Whitney, and Dennis has the most fantastic story. Today is June 17th, and about a year ago, Dennis had announced to the public that he was going to retreat. And many of his followers on his blog post and his Facebook were very disappointed, and he really did. He took a leave of absence, whatever you're open to. Maybe your experience with ETs, how you came across these anomalies, these UFOs, if you will, and what was your transition? I think a lot of people want to hear about that.
Sure thing, Roxy. Thanks. For the interest of time, I'll try to condense this into multiple years into something that's informative and coherent, and it'll give you some clue as to the path that I've been on, like you said, and what brought me to where I am today. 2005, I had my first major sighting, and there was nothing that seemed happenstance about this, nothing accidental. I was living in the farm fields of Northern California in a town called Lincoln. And crystal clear skies, got to see anything. If anything was moving in the sky, I was going to see it, and I did. And it absolutely knocked my socks off when I first recognized that, oh my gosh, these things are truly moving. These are not stars. So I went in and I grabbed a high-powered flashlight, and just like the kind of stuff I've seen on the Discovery Channel or whatever else, I'm flashing my light at it. I don't know what I'm doing. I just want to let them know, I'm here. I see you. I'm here. And with that, they made a tremendous and pronounced presence the following day. I had no idea what I was in for. Northern California, in a town called Elk Grove, and for anybody that wants to look it up on YouTube, and I'll give you more information about this as well in a bit, but there's what's known as the Elk Grove UFO. This was massive, absolutely massive. This is something that I could have hit with a rock, I believe. At least it appeared that way, and it was a golden ship.
As you well know, Dennis is a ufologist, an experiencer, a writer, and a spiritualist. And many of you were very sad when Dennis really just disappeared. This is always tough when you have somebody like Dennis in your life who shares experiences and you don't feel so alone, whether it be you had a sighting or an anomaly in the sky or an actual ET experience. Dennis was really there for a lot of people. He is here today to set the record straight, and he's going to talk about his journey. And I think it's very important for all of us, no matter if you've had an experience or not, or those of you who are fighting the Fed right now, or chemtrail investigators, we all get the same sort of experience that Dennis had, which was, well, why don't I just let Dennis tell you about it? Good afternoon, Dennis. Welcome to the show.
Roxy, thank you for having me. This is wonderful to be on. I congratulate you on your new show, and I appreciate you giving me the kind of an open forum to kind of set the record straight on a lot of things and discuss some pretty important stuff that's going on in our world right now.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you for your openness, and thanks for appearing here.
You're welcome. You're
this
welcome.
Is awesome. So, Dennis, let's catch up some of the listeners that are not familiar with you, and let's go back a few years and talk about whatever you want to talk about, Dennis. Whatever.
In the living room, where there was a glass patio door overlooking the mountains, right where we were doing our sky watching. I'm standing there. I'm only having a glass of water, and I'm going back to bed. And I'm standing there with my water, and I see a scan. What I later determined to be a scan, very defined beam, came from nowhere. Absolutely nothing outside my window, no activity, nothing in the valley below. It wasn't a car turning a corner or anything like that. There was a beam from floor to ceiling about a foot wide, amber in color, which will sound familiar to a lot of people. It's usually amber or blue, it seems. Floor to ceiling scanning from left to right, over my body and across. It was very timed. It was very, it was almost like a lighthouse. You have that very perfectly timed rotation, or you can say a disc. So this happened once, comes across me. Several moments later, it happens again. And now I'm thinking, what is going on? So now I turn my left side to the back wall, my right side out the front window. So now I can see when this thing begins, and I can see if there's anything coming in. So the thing scans across me. I'm looking out as it's happening. There's absolutely nothing coming in my window. I'm sorry, somebody was just waving at me. Sorry about this.
Now, Dennis, may I ask, when you talk about this as scanning you, now, just to be clear, you are inside of your home. Something comes from the outside to the inside, or it's just present on the inside of your home?
If you were to ask my opinion,